All right, so now I have example 2, and I have -3, 12, 6, and 9, -5, -6, -2, 4, minus, so we're going to subtract these matrices. I've got -3, 6, -2, and of course I did this one by columns. Oh, excuse me, it's not -1, it's +1. And then I have 0, -4, 6, and 2. Okay. So first, looking at this, we're going to make sure that they're the same size. This first matrix, I have 4 rows and 2 columns, so it's considered a 4 by 2. And then in this second one, I again have 4 rows and 2 columns, so this is also a 4 by 2. One thing that I strongly suggest, and it's something that you learned when you learned integers, probably in middle school. If you had a number minus, another number, you could do the whole leave, change, where you leave the first number alone, change the subtraction sign to addition, and then change the sign of the second number. So like the sign of the -4 would then be +4. You wouldn't necessarily write that, but you kind of want to keep that in mind whenever you're doing matrices, especially because we have a lot of negative numbers. Excuse me. So with that, I highly recommend changing the subtraction to an addition and adding the opposite of all of the numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I do recommend using a different colored pen so that way you can see that you did change it. Oops, I lied. That should not be a positive. That should be a negative. 0 is neither positive nor negative, so I don't have to write anything. So now that this is an addition problem, it's going to make my life a whole heck of a lot easier. Okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and add, the numbers that are in the same spots, like row 1, column 1, and row 1, column 2, and all that stuff. So I'm going to do -3 plus +3, that's 0. I'm going to do 12 plus 0, that's 12. 6 plus -6, that's another 0. 9 plus +4 is 13. Excuse me, I apologize. -5 plus +2 is -3. -6 plus -6 is -12. -2 plus -1 is -3. And finally, 4 plus -2 is 2. And at this time, I am completely finished with that problem. So matrices, you'll kind of find it's almost a break from a lot of the craziness that you get in Algebra II. It's also very tedious work. So I always say, if you're considering being an accountant, somebody who has to work very meticulously with numbers and having them in the right spots and all of that stuff, I always think of an accountant with that. If you're not a big fan of the matrices and being intricate with that, accounting may not be the profession for you. Just saying, okay? Just kind of keep that in mind with this. So let's look at our example 3. So I have 4, -2, 3, -6, minus the quantity of the matrix of 2, 10, 9, -7, oops, minus, and then I've got -3, 1, 6, and 0. Okay, so we do need to follow order of operations, which means parentheses first. If you haven't already, these all are 2 by 2s, so we're good to go. Now, so what I'm going to have to do first is I'm going to have to handle what's inside here. So I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite this first matrix because there's nothing I can do with it just yet. And then this second matrix, I am going to go ahead and add the opposite. Okay, and 0 is neither positive nor negative. And so you do want to add the opposite with the matrix. So then I have 2 plus 3, which is 5. 10 plus -1, which is 9. 9 plus -6, and that's 3. And then -7 plus 0 is -7. Now, if you notice, I do have another subtraction problem. So we're going to go ahead and add the opposite for all of those. So that way we can get our final answer. So I have 4 plus -5, which is -1. Negative 2 plus negative 9, which is negative 11. 3 plus negative 3 is 0. And negative 6 plus 7 is 1. And now I have completed that problem. So again, you do want to follow order of operations. Make sure that your matrices are the same sizes before you do anything. And anytime you're subtracting a matrix, you want to add the opposite. And when you add the opposite, that whole matrix has to have the opposite signs, not just one or two numbers. You can't kind of pick and choose. All right. Now let's look at our final example problem just to like seal the deal, make sure everything's good and you're feeling confident with this. So this is a funny looking one because it's a 4 by 1. I have 4 rows in just one column. So it's a little bit like giraffe looking, I feel, with like a little giraffe neck or something. But anyway, so let's go ahead and write down this problem. Okay. So this is our original problem. Very similar to the last one, and the only difference really is that there's a 4 by 1, and that inside the parentheses we are going to add the two matrices instead of subtracting. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this first one of 6, 9, 3, and negative 1 minus, and now I have to figure out the second one. The beauty is it's an addition problem, so there's no sign change, there's no adding the opposite that needs to happen. So now I have negative 2 plus negative 6, which is negative 8, negative 7 plus negative 2, which is negative 9, 1 plus negative 9, which is negative 8, and 0 plus negative 1, which is negative 1. So now, isn't that lovely that those are all negatives in there? Now I'm going to have to add these together, but if you notice, I am going to need to add the opposite because this is a subtraction problem right there. So I'm going to go ahead and add the opposite. So I'm changing all of those negative numbers to positives, and now I'm just going to add across. So 6 plus positive 8 is 14. 9 plus positive 9 is 18. 3 plus positive 8 is 11, and negative 1 plus 1 is 0. And then I am completely finished with adding the matrix. So again, for some people, they like to use different colors, especially when adding the opposite, just to make sure, you know, visually that you're able to see, oh, I did change that sign, I did add the opposite, or whatever you need to do for that. Again, make sure the matrices are the same size when adding and subtracting, and make sure to follow any order of operations. So if you have any parentheses or something like that, that does need to occur first. Other than that, that is the gist of matrices, so of adding and subtracting them, I should say. So it's kind of, like I said, it's a little bit of a break from what we've done, what we have been doing. So, so enjoy the break because it won't last long, okay? All right. So then we'll meet in class.